Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts, Adam Jewell and Brendon Traxler.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Colonize the Ocean podcast and video show. Now that this is our second episode of doing the video format as well. Like always, I am Adam Jewell. I am the social media manager for Atlanta Sea Colony and one of your gingeriest podcast hosts for this show. And with me, as always, is Brendon. He is the owner and founder of Atlanta Sea Colony. Brendon, how are you doing?
Doing well.
And for those that are watching, you guys are seeing a little third window down there. With us is Chad Elwartowski. He has quite an interesting backstory, and if you guys want to look into it, go ahead, because you'll be able to read about it, all about it. But we want to talk more with Chad about some of the stuff that's going on now and in the future, and just more about Chad himself. So, Chad, thanks for joining us on the Colonize the Ocean podcast / video show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Ed.
I appreciate you getting not reaching out to me, but responding to me when I reached out to you about it, because you are kind of a big name when it comes to the seasteading community. You know, obviously you have a interesting history with that, but just in general, like, how did you get into seasteading, and like how did all that kind of pique an interest with you?
Well, yeah, you guys mentioned you discuss underwater colonizing as well. Going back, I think it was sixth grade. I was that was for me. That was the Cold War time, and my teacher was telling me about Russia. We're all scared of Russia dropping bombs, and he was saying how every U.S. would drop bombs, Russia would drop bombs, and we'd have nuclear bombs all over the world. The only place safe is like 1,000 meters under the water. So, while everybody else is so like, oh, we're doomed, we're gonna die. I'm like, okay, I guess we need to live 1,000 meters under the water. We need to start figuring out how to live underwater, because it's nothing I could do about it as a kid, but it's like start thinking about life under the water. So that kind of has been my interest for a long time. I always designed like living in spheres down on the bottom of the ocean,
right.
And thought that would be really cool. And so when the whole seasteading concept came up, I was like, oh, cool, there's this other group of people thinking similar things. So yeah, back in 2008, I saw Patrick Friedman give a speech on seasteading, and basically the whole concept of being able to float with your boat, float with your house. You kind of vote with your house. You just you don't like community, you just take your house and you float to the next community because you don't like your government. So I liked that concept for the longest time and followed everything that they were doing. And I was fortunate enough in 2017 to retire thanks to Bitcoin. And at the time, Blue Frontiers was working on their seastead in French Polynesia. That was the plan. So I actually quit my job and moved to French Polynesia to be part of their big project. And unfortunately, that didn't work out. But this engineer down in Thailand contacted. Well, yeah, we're emailing back and forth about seasteading, and so he basically said, come on down and check it out. So I went down and saw what he was doing. So it's pretty exciting because he actually had something in the water already. Yeah, most people don't know, but he already had done a concrete version of what I eventually lived in. That was his test first. So he proved the concept with that for a floating spar, and then he decided to make one out of steel that was bigger. So that's when I got down there, was when he's already started working on the steel structure.
So now was he associated with Ocean Builders? Is that a separate thing?
It became Ocean Builders as we kind of sat over time. He was just doing his project. His name's Rudiger Koch. He's a German aeronautical engineer, and this whole thing for him is about going into space. So he's a genius on this whole. Yeah, it's way beyond anything I could explain, but he needs to create a hyperloop, or he wants to create a hyperloop, which has been discussed by many scientists in the field, and it would be just basically a way to launch things into space cheaply and quickly and easily. Of course, he can't build it on land, so I mean, he was in the process. He works with these superconductors, and he's always working on this project. So he was just building this big thing in the water, because he figured, okay, I'll do a test of like a 300-meter wide prototype in the water. So he was just building a little watchtower, so he could watch the prototype as it was being built. So as he was working on his space program, I was like, how about I just live in the thing, because you're gonna be gone, and I can just live in it. He's like, oh, that's cool. Kind of helps him out. He didn't want to just leave it out there sitting, nobody in it. So, and he kind of contacted me because he's like, I'm building this thing, and you seasteaders are just talking about stuff. It's like, you should really, see if this is viable for seasteading. So I went down there, and I kind of got excited about it. It's like, yeah, let's do this for seasteading.
So with the designs that are out there right now, which are absolutely beautiful, is that his design? How do those come around?
Well, we took what we created in Thailand, which was kind of the prototype. We proved the concept, so the genie's out of the bottle. The ocean is ready to be lived on. It's real estate out there, so once we proved it, and that's most of the comments we were getting was, I don't think I can live in a 6-meter wide box, basically, is what it was. So we definitely wanted it to look better. We had our current CEO, Grant Roman, he come out, and he stayed on the seastead with us, and he was ready to he's semi-retired as well, thanks to the Bitcoin as well. So he wanted to get involved with the project, but he always wanted, he's like, it needs to be sexier. So his plan was to buy a couple and make like CB&Bs out of them. So he said, if I'm gonna rent these out, I want tourists to be able to say, okay, yeah, I want to go live there or stay on there for a week or whatever. So he worked with architect Cohen Otenhuis. I probably said that wrong, but it's this guy from the Netherlands. He's he designs just floating vessels in the Netherlands. There's a boat down in Miami. Well, it's not a boat, it's a floating house in Miami that sits up on stilts.
Yep.
You guys probably saw that one. So he designed that one. So he helped us design this new version.
Very cool.
So
we, in the past, talking about seasteading, we've had Carly Jackson on a podcast early, one of the first episodes we got her on, because we've been talking to her. So, we got her side of the whole seasteading thing, but, hers is very different from what your thing is. And going back to, you're interested in in underwater colonization and living underwater and stuff like that. So what were you watching to get into the, I mean, obviously Patry, but how did you find about him?
I was part of the Ron Paul revolution.
Okay.
Very cool. I was on the Ron Paul forums, and everybody's talking about different ways of being free. So, gotcha. I mean, that's how I found out about Bitcoin. I found out about seasteading. So, yeah, that's is interesting that the same year as 2008, 2009, that seasteading and Bitcoin are born. You know, basically the same year that Ron Paul's advocating liberty. So he's definitely sparked something worldwide by running.
Very cool.
It's kind of funny how one of the common themes when it comes to the seasteaders that we've talked to, and just a lot of the people in general that we talk with when it comes to just underwater colonization or whatever, is one of the key similarities is libertarianism, it seems, and there's a lot of similarities in that, where it's just people kind of wanting to live free, whether it's, you know, seasteading or like what we want to pursue, underwater structures and stuff. It's kind of funny how that's one of the common themes amongst all of us.
Yeah, because there's no options. I mean, there's also been I mean, I've been involved with it quite a bit, so there's also the extreme socialist, almost communist side as well. But I'm all for it. It's like, create your communist seastead, we'll create our libertarian seastead, and, you know, enjoy it. Nobody needs to to fight over it, and as long as you have a choice, it's all good. Yeah, it's definitely been I mean, there's a vacuum, I guess, needs to be filled.
Yeah,
right.
I think with the polarization of politics, especially in America, if not everywhere, it's becoming, you know, people are looking for something. So I think that's definitely helping. Everybody's here at the right time at the wrong time, I guess. But, you know,
right.
So that's very cool.
Yeah, I keep wishing I was still out on that seastead, you know, away from all this madness, but unfortunately, didn't work out.
How's Panama?
I love it. I mean, it's I'm living on the water right now. Yeah, we're under total lockdown, but for me, it's not that bad. I'm always at home anyway, and Nadia's always cooking her great meals, so it's not too bad for me. And we're still working. We're putting up the building. We're building a factory, which actually I started thinking recently about the underwater stuff, and I definitely need to contact anybody that wants to start building underwater, because we're building a factory. We've got a 3D printer. It's the largest, I guess we can say it's the largest in Latin America. It's a 20-foot by 16-foot, 8-foot tall. So we'll be able to build molds and use that to build our fiberglass structures around it.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that you guys had that 3D printer, I started drooling. I was like, yeah. I could build some cool underwater habitats with that sucker. And
right.
So definitely, it's something that, you know, let you guys do your little thing. But I definitely, you know, I was even telling Adam, I said I wasn't going to mention this, but I said, man, I got vacation. I'm going to go down to Panama and just hang out for a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, definitely. It's very cool.
No, for all of these seasteads, I've always wanted to do like maybe a half dome or something on the bottom of the water under the seastead, so everybody's like, you know, hanging out at their seastead. They do scuba diving down to the bottom and have like a bar at the bottom.
That's cool. Very cool.
You could jam out and, you know, crank up the music. It's not going to bother anybody.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll need to talk or something like that, because I definitely want to check that out at some point in time. So that's cool.
Right. It seems like underwater solves a lot of the political difficulties that we're running into, because especially if you're mobile.
Yeah.
I did as I was researching all the laws, which, you know, Thailand claims I didn't know any laws, but I was researching all the UNCLOS laws of the sea. One of them said that if you're in a submarine and you're within the territorial waters, you have to be not submerged, opposite of submerged, but on the water. You have to be up over the water. So because we were that was going to be one of our options for getting to the seastead, because once we got out there and we were living, we're like, how the heck do we park our boat? Because
right,
yeah, we have a great concept for architecture of a house to sit in the open ocean, but your transportation. So I was like, we need to build a submarine and just go out there in the submarine, and then but that's when I read that we would have to be floating on the surface within territorial waters, which probably driving a submarine on the surface is probably not that fun. It's probably very bumpy, and it's completely defeats purpose.
Defeats purpose then, yeah.
Not much of a submarine at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of. Go ahead.
Yep. No, so I was definitely think that's underwater, and Panama is not like we're not doing true seasteading. I consider seasteading as having some sovereignty or some freedom. We're focused mainly on the engineering, the manufacturing, the process of let's build things and sell them, and develop the concept a bit more. We're not going hardcore like we did in Thailand and just going for it, going out 12 nautical miles.
Right.
So we'll be in the shallow water, 4 meters or 7 meters deep, in the leeward side of an island. So we're fairly protected as far as the waves go. So we're mainly focusing on just getting the house right. So we're actually to a point where people would want to live in this, get it sustainable, get all the the power and everything, getting everything working first before we start worrying about going out 12 nautical miles and worrying about the sovereignty part.
You are on the Atlantic side, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a bit more difficult because Panama is weird because it goes kind of east and west. So we're on the northern tip of Panama, and the further north we go, the more we get closer to the hurricane zones. I initially thought the Atlantic side would be fine because we could just go east and go further and further east. But yeah, Panama is kind of weird. If we were going straight out right here, we'd be going north. So we can't go too far north. And the waves over here are really probably too much for having our spar. It's not like the Andaman Sea where the highest waves are 2 meters a year. Here the highest waves might be 3 or 4 meters. So we'd have to build really much bigger structures, and having lived in it, I wouldn't recommend living where you have 4 meter waves.
Yeah.
Unless you have something to dampen the waves. That's why I keep thinking about, oh man, we should do something submersible.
Yeah.
There's also the option, we are considering working with the Panamanian government, and just like they did in French Polynesia, get some sort of a special economic zone or some sort of concession that we can start working on having a small community and all that.
Very cool. Very cool. When you were talking about studying all the laws and stuff along those lines, is that the hardest thing that's been as far as this whole thing is the legality of everything?
We knew being over 12 nautical miles out would give us more freedom. We wanted to, check the laws to define, okay, how much freedom. And the reality is the project was all about getting Rudiger being able to do his experiment. So I had no no reason to do anything that was not legal on land myself. I just wanted to test out the concept of living in the ocean.
Right.
So it wasn't so much we were worried about what could we do. We just wanted to make sure that we weren't breaking any laws. And like with the submarine thing, had we built a submarine and we're driving under the ocean, then yeah, definitely we would have been breaking laws. But so we wanted to cover bases. Being over 12 nautical miles, you're not under territorial laws, but you are still under. You're in the contiguous zone, which means you can't harvest oil, and we couldn't even do like commercial fishing, which we had some people that want to do a fish farm. So we're like, okay, well, you'll probably have to get a license and work with the government to do that. So, but there's all these things that we're just like, well, that's nothing we'll ever do. One law was you can't interfere with customs. Like, okay, no problem. But,
you were going to get in front of some boats and tell them what they could and couldn't bring into the mainland.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's so few laws out there that we need to follow, and there's also more laws out there that you're kind of it makes things difficult because governments can board your vessel if they suspect something or whatever. So it's a different world in the maritime law area, but I think we're focused on the engineering at this point and let the lawyers hash out. Actually, we discuss once in a while with Tom Bell of the Seasteading Institute. He chimes in on some of the matters, and he mentioned how a lot of this is just. Sorry, my dog's going crazy. A lot of this is just unknown because it's unknown territory. How many houses have been built in the open ocean that have had to have some legal process go through. So we would like to actually be able to address all this stuff in court and define some things, but that likely will come. But until at the moment, they have a case open on us, so it comes with a death penalty. So we're not going to be going to court to argue whether or not a house out in the middle of the ocean constitutes anything legal until they aren't trying to basically kill us.
Yeah. One of my questions, it kind of segues into this, but being a pioneer in any field comes with tons of unknowns and tons of risks too. So being sort of this pioneer into this new avenue, is there any suggestions or advice or anything you would give to somebody that maybe it's not seasteading, maybe it's space exploration, which has got a whole lot more traction on it, or even underwater colonization? What would you tell somebody?
I'd just say incrementally, just do it. Do the smallest viable thing that you can do. Like with underwater, like I wanted to build a dome maybe 3 or 4 meters wide and just go underwater and see how it is and test things out, because there's such a learning process of doing something new. Like I said, I've been doing seasteading or involved for over 10 years, and once we're out there and we're actually doing stuff, there's just all these little things that you don't know about. So do something super small and just do it. Otherwise, I keep seeing these super mega structures that get planned in seasteading, and I'm like, there's no need to even talk about it, because it's, unless you have the one floating platform out there that's 10 feet wide, and you're not even getting started.
Yeah, I've said that about underwater. I said, that on multiple occasions. I've said the reason they don't happen is everybody's got these grandiose ideas of these giant things. And it's like, no, you're not laying any foundation here. It's just all talk at that point in time. And yeah,
Right.
it looks great on paper and it's really pretty, but whatever. And, similar to you, I came up with this idea back in 93, 94, when I was in, whatever grade that was, 11, 10th, 11th, something around there. That's where I came up with the idea of the dome as well, and started drawing and started researching and stuff pre-internet days, so we didn't have all the information we have now at our fingertips to really look it up. So it's interesting that you had a very similar, probably around the same time. I'm not sure how much age difference we got here, but yeah. That's very cool.
Which our engineer, Rudiger, he suggests not doing it curved and not doing it dome shaped.
Yeah, I shied away from that, probably 15, 20 years ago, as far as in the designs. Just, at least at this point in time. Down the road, maybe, but right now, no. So.
Yeah, there's probably a way using computers and stress testing, whatever, everything. But yeah, but I think it'd be easier reaching the ultimate goal of freedom, especially if you're mobile. You're under the water and you're mobile, and if some country starts, I don't know, they're like, oh no, there's somebody far out under the water that we can't see that's doing living free. We can't have that. And then first news article that comes out where they start claiming you're scary people, then
something about
boom,
that?
next week you floated out. Yeah. Next week you're floated out to the next country, and when the uproar finally, let's go get them, and then they go over to wherever you were. Like, oh, where are they? Where'd they go?
I think one of the important things with both seasteading and what we're trying to do with underwater colony is that both communities, even though in a sense we're all one big community as far as living independently at sea, whether it's above water or below, that having a big enough community that is willing to support you or that wants to pursue it themselves, then you have a large enough, I guess, populace that's willing to, defend you and like back this kind of thing up. Because I mean, the fewer people that are doing it, the less it's known. And like you said, when a news article comes out, the wrong message is going to get portrayed about whatever's going on, because there's not going to be that group of people behind them to back them up, to where, yeah, I could easily see that kind of thing happening no matter where you go, whether you're in North America, South America, wherever, that if someone just doesn't feel comfortable with what you're doing, that they're going to write their own narrative about it.
Right. And being libertarians, we're also going to have the crazy ones come out too and do some really crazy, weird stuff that it's a little uncomfortable even for us. So
yeah, Adam and me have had that conversation multiple times.
Yep.
Yeah, I was part of the Free State Project as well, and we formed also a Free City Project for Grafton, North New Hampshire, and we were all talking on discussion groups like, yeah, let's buy a bunch of land in this little town in New Hampshire, which eventually word got to those guys that they're coming to take over our city, and all the locals were in a big uproar. And one of the more vocal members of the group, I guess he ran some sort of mail order bride company out of Puerto Rico, and he was just way out there, and he was talking about, oh, I have a list of all statists, and you're gonna make my list, and you're making my list, and he had his own website of all the bad things he was gonna do to all the statists in that little town, and he just made us all look so bad. So yeah, that's I think for company moving forward, we're trying to be apolitical, and I tend to fortunately, not the mainstream media. I tend to only do interviews with alternative media, because mainstream media, they know I like freedom, so they focus on that, and nobody in the mainstream media understands that freedom is good. So I hand off the MSM interviews to the CEO, and he gives them the pretty nice pictures of what's to come and the technology and all that. So we try to be apolitical for now, but
sometimes there's no running away from it.
Exactly.
And like you were saying,
and I've shot myself in the foot, because it's like, I can't be covert in my my way of saying, oh no, I'm just like you. I'm a regular guy who likes government and all that. No, you don't have to paint me into a corner of being this guy who likes liberty. Like, it's too late. I've I've shown my cards.
And like you were mentioning with ocean builders, we're focused on the engineering, and in a similar way, that's kind of our philosophy: is we'll build the habitats. You do with what you want to do with them. At that point in time, you can do what
right.
We're just wanting to be a catalyst in ocean colonization.
Right.
Obviously underwater, but we'll sell it to you. You can do what you want to do with it. It's kind of the philosophy we're looking at with the whole thing. Obviously, we're still not 100% on that business model, but that's what we're looking at. So similar to it looks like what Ocean Builders is doing.
Yeah, we want to stay definitely apolitical. We're building houses. That's all we're doing is building houses. So.
Yep.
I was also thinking with the underwater habitats, because a lot of the difficulty with that comes from electricity and how do you get the air down there. If you're in cooperation with a seastead that's on top of the water, they're just feeding down the electricity, feeding down the oxygen, all that. You could always detach from. You have like little thing you can detach, and like, okay, it sucks here. I'm gonna go move to the next seastead and be under them. So I could see definitely a coordination between the two types of living.
Yeah, the seasteading institute, in the seasteading in general, I was completely unfamiliar with until just a couple, 2 or 3 years ago. It was actually my dad. He was telling me about Peter Thiel and his involvement and stuff like that. And so that's how I got involved with the whole thing. And I was like, man, I wish I knew about this years ago, but very cool.
Right.
A lot of the same technologies and stuff can be partnership between both of them. So yeah, it's very interesting.
And then if there's like a hurricane coming, or even just really bad seas, like it's gonna destroy the homes, or it's gonna be really tough up on the surface. Like, okay, hey, come on down.
Yeah.
Stay down with us.
Exactly.
That's been one of the coolest things since I've been a part of this, is just being able to build that relationship with the seasteading community and being able to learn from them and just make ourselves aware to them too, and talking with people like you who are, even through this interview, you're giving us a lot of good things to think about and talk about too. So I mean, that's what's been awesome about all of this.
Yep. I went to a meeting in French Polynesia in Tahiti of underwater community, so they're also working on it as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was mainly in French, so I didn't really understand. But
which one was that?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I think it was a French group, so. But they had cool pictures and that sounds cool.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're talking about the media and stuff along those lines. What do you think is one of the most misunderstood aspects about seasteading for people who are coming on? What's
let's see. Well, the biggest one that always comes up is, what about the pirates? What about the waves? So, yeah, it's the pirate thing is the thing that everybody always focuses on. Come to find out, the Navy is the pirates. So it's
and all these things are answered on the ocean builder side, or the seasteading has answers to all this stuff on their YouTube channels and social media and stuff anyway too. So
yeah, Seasteading Institute does all those, answering all the questions. It's hard with the pirate question, because if you indicate that you're willing and able to defend yourself against pirates, then the Navy start wondering if you're a threat. It's like, oh, they can protect themselves. Oh, they can protect themselves from us too, probably. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind of, yeah, ride that line.
Right.
So what's in the future now for you and seasteading? Like, what do you? Obviously, you're doing some work with the, engineering and construction of the new style and whatnot. But I mean, what's your long term plan, and what are you hoping to see here near and far future?
Near term, we should have this summer built the first home. We call them sea pods. So we'll have one built like the model. We're hoping by August or September, and then we'll be able to start replicating them. We're hoping to do maybe one a month, but I'm not sure if we're ready to discuss it yet. But with this whole pandemic thing and the reaction of the government,
Mm-hmm.
we're wanting to ramp things up quickly, and we are kind of understanding that most likely the cruise ship industry is going to crash hard, and we think that we could leverage that buying a cruise ship cheap, like almost for steel, this
Mm-hmm.
price of the steel cheap, and get started. I mean, we need to, like I said, it'd be taking like a month or so per home that we're building here. So if you think in 1 year, okay, we have 10 homes, that does nothing for all these people that are like, oh, my government is oppressing me and I need to get out and go somewhere.
Right.
So we're like, okay, let's look into buying a cruise ship and work with Panama to see if they can set us up a sea zone to allow us to do that. So that's one of our strategies. But use this cruise ship so that we can have people that can help us build more of these homes. So yeah, a lot of different avenues, and even with building our sea pods, we will begin building and hopefully get faster and be able to build more, because I think basically all we would need to do if we had enough demand is just buy another printer and build another building. So you just expand. And as we do plan on doing a deep water version out in open ocean. We actually just put a prototype in the water last week, and I just created a video and put that out on YouTube and library. But we have a deep water version that we want to make it dynamically moored. So you have like 6 motors on it so that you can stay in the relative same position while you're out in, you could have 2 mile deep water, and you don't have to anchor because you can just be on the surface.
Right.
So we're working on that. We're also working with these guys out of St. Lucia that are working on a wave dampening device that produces electricity. So
Very cool.
As it hits higher waves, it dampens and also makes electricity. So we want to be able to be in the open ocean while using those guys to dampen the waves, so that we're not in the huge 5-meter waves. We can be in 2 meter and be just fine. So fortunately, there's a lot of people in seasteading that are finally getting the point, like, okay, let's start doing things. So there's engineers out there, like, let's throw out a prototype. So that's all I've always said. I wanted in French Polynesia, I was getting frustrated with all the talk and the politics. I was like, okay, just stick something out there, put a barge or put a floating dock in the middle of the water, and let's all get started, because I know people they're really excited and they want things to happen. We have well, not right now during the lockdown, but when it it gets lifted, we have a maker space here for people. We rented a house that has 6 rooms, so we want volunteers to come down and start a little incubator house, start your business and get things going, because we're all about making things fun. We're all about doing. And like, okay, we've talked long enough, and it's time to start doing things.
Right. I'd like to volunteer my services. I have an extensive background in lean manufacturing, as far as like being able to build things and build them efficiently and quicker. So I mean, if you're all about, once you get all that going and you want to figure out how to run or make your factory run faster and get more product out, I'll gladly quit working for Brendon and I'll come down and help you out and do whatever.
Awesome.
I don't know if my wife and kids would like
Awesome.
it, but I mean, I'll work a way out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just invite them down to Panama.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to be able to enjoy the time.
Yep.
So
I'm not gonna let them watch this, by the way.
Right.
So one thing when we started this thing, I said I didn't want to talk about certain things because I'm sure you're tired of talking about them. So is there anything that you don't get to talk about in interviews and stuff like that that you have a passion about, that you like to get out there? Maybe not. I just want to throw it out there.
Yeah, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine. It's a question I ask every once in a while. Nobody does have an answer for, but I'm just curious if somebody's like, man, nobody ever asked me this question. I want to talk about this, or there's a passion I've got that I think, which I think we've kind of dug into it anyway, just the conversation as it is. So, but yeah.
Yeah, there's one aspect of it. I'm not sure if you guys have come across this part of it yourselves, but we've been working on. You've probably heard of BioRock. We've kind of enhanced the concept, and we call it Coralcrete. So we're actually have an experiment going right now. We did some experiments in Thailand. It's basically running electricity through a metal mesh, which attracts the calcium carbonate in the water, and it builds basically rock. And if you put coral onto it, coral actually, it kind of thrives on calcium carbonate, which and there's processes of chopping the coral into tiny pieces, and then it grows to the exact same size as it was started as. So there's ways to grow coral quickly, and that way that's part of our process for the steel, because our spars are made out of steel. That actually protects the steel from rusting, and also, since we don't have to move, having coral on your home is actually really cool. So we're both building. That's why we're calling it ocean builders, because we feel like we're building the ocean. We're building coral. We're building ecosystems on the water. So plus, when we were out there in Thailand, just the amount of fish that came to our it acts as a fish aggregate. So you get all these fish around your home. So if we can combine having coral and just drawing fish, it's going to make every place that we are just thrive. And I think once people can see this, and we can show that this is basically, we're growing cities of coral out in the ocean. And as you guys probably know, the open ocean is just a vast desert of nothingness. There's no life out there. So if we're building life in the ocean and pulling carbon out of the air. So it's like, you could be super hardcore socialist, environmentalist, or whatever, and you should still support what we're doing, because I actually maybe don't want solutions to global warming, because it helps your narrative, but we're actually providing a solution that could actually do something really good for the planet. So their models of the carbon better be right, because we're going to be pulling carbon out of the air.
We talked with Carly Jackson about the same thing, and you had to have dealt with it a lot of times when talking about this, but same with us. We get this left and right when it comes to our social media, is that everybody thinks that seasteading, or I shouldn't say everybody, but seasteading, or what we're trying to do, underwater colonization, is going to destroy things. We're going to go out there and destroy the ocean. And so it's good to hear, like, when you come out and say that, and like, obviously you've lived it, you've seen it, where you can actually create more, build the ecosystem in a sense, to where people think we're going to go out there and just throw giant bags of plastic straws in the ocean or something.
I know, right? Dumping nuclear waste. That's the best activity. Yeah, we're not doing BioShock. You don't. Nobody watching this video has to throw down in the comment section BioShock or Waterworld.
Which we get that a lot too. Both those.
Exactly.
So, I guess, Brendon, I don't have anything else. Is there anything major you wanted to ask him?
I mean, I think this has been a really good,
yeah,
this has been great.
So but like, as kind of as a parting, tell people how they can keep up with you, how they can keep up with Ocean Builders, just how they can be involved, just promote whatever you want to promote. The floor is yours.
Definitely. Yeah. Just go to oceanbuilders.com. We have on there, you can sign up for our incubator house. We have an affiliate program for people who want to help us sell our homes. We're actually able to, you can reserve your home now. You just put $100 deposit, either with PayPal or Bitcoin. And we've already got a couple of people reserving their homes. So as it's first come, first serve. So like I said, we're hoping to have, one every month or two. So if you want one in the next year, if you're tired of your government and you need to get away, yeah, you better go reserve it. There's a Facebook group, Ocean Builders, and yeah, definitely we're always putting videos up through the Seasteading Institute. Watch the first Seasteaders series. It's almost to the point of they have enough time for like a full documentary movie.
Right.
It's quite a lot of footage.
Well, and we'll make sure to throw that in all of our show notes and everything too, link to the YouTube and all that. But yeah, thanks again for taking time to talk to us. I know things are crazy in the world right now with being locked down everywhere, and you're obviously keeping busy with all this. So, I mean, thank you for taking time to talk with us. And obviously we're going to stay in touch, because now that we know that you got that 3D printer, we're going to send you some questions here. So,
definitely come on down.
I wouldn't say that unless you actually wanted to show up, because we're very unpredictable. We'll just come knocking on that door. but yeah, once again, thank you for doing that.
Yep. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having me on.
Yep, thank you.